Is 8 GB VRAM enough for 6x dynamic frame gen? Well, I'm gonna be testing the second weakest Nvidia Blackwell GPU, which is a 5060, in this video, testing out 3 different games, which is gonna be Alan Wake 2, Cyberpunk, and Borderlands 4, just on dynamic frame gen. On 4K 1440p 1080p, you can see it's the MSI Shadow version of the GPU, right up with the 9800X 3D and 64 GB of DDR5 memory, running at 6000 MHz, running on base speeds. Nothing is overclocked here. So with the latest driver, 595.97, which is required, with the beta version enabled, early access, to have this feature in the game. So that's pretty much it. Now let's jump into the video. I'm not planning to make this video like 40 minutes long like the last 5060 Ti video that I did. I was expecting that to be like at most 30 minutes. But, you know, once I start talking about things, once I'm in the game, I just lose my touch and I just keep on yapping about a lot of things, and it becomes hard for me to edit out most of it because I feel like it's useful, you know. So yeah, see, I'm just going off track and talking about some random shit again. So to avoid that, I'm just going to keep it to dynamic frame gen only, so that hopefully I'll be able to finish the video in like 20 minutes max, because it's only 3 games and it's going to be quick, okay? So let's see. First up, it's going to be Alan Wake 2. Alright, so starting off on Alan Wake 2, we can go here and set it to dynamic. I'm going to keep it to 6x, because that's the max we can go, you know? And I'm going to try to get it to 120 FPS again. There's an 8 GB card. Now I'm probably going to max out the game with and without path tracing. It's going to be insanely intensive, but that's the beauty of it, you know. When you have the hardware and all this technology, just try maxing it out and see how it goes, you know. So I'm going to apply that. Now let's jump into Alan Wake 2. I'm kind of excited. Starting it off on 4K with performance mode. Frame gen is turned on, so it's automatically going to be dynamic frame gen 6x. I'm going to try going to high preset. It's going to be insane, but let's see. It's going to be able to keep up. No ray tracing for now. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so on high settings with DLSS performance, it's trying to get to 100 FPS. These settings, you can see the latency is 200, almost 300 milliseconds. That is absolutely terrible. 300 milliseconds on a single player game. Are you kidding me? Might as well just download the game from cloud and play it on that. Nvidia GeForce experience is going to be way better than this. With a better internet connection, you can get way better performance than this. This is absolutely terrible. On 4K with the DLSS performance, it's upscaled from 1080p. It is struggling to get to even 100 FPS with 6x frame gen. It makes me wonder, can I do without the frame gen, you know? If I turn this off, how bad is it going to be? 14 FPS. It's a shame that I can't open the Steam overlay, because this game is open on Epic Games, so no Steam overlay for this, but you can see it's 26 FPS without frame gen. And right now the latency is way better, 176, which is still pretty terrible. But this is better than frame gen turned on, that's for sure. So 4K, it's a shit show for sure, because the moment I enable it, it is struggling. It does its best to get it to like 90 FPS, but there's no way it can make it to 120. Look at that. Look at that, man. Almost 400 milliseconds. Wow. Absolutely terrible on 4K, even though it's upscaled from 1080p. So I think if you put it down to maybe like medium settings, might be playable, you know. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to put it to medium settings. I'm not even going to touch path tracing. It's going to just break the game completely. And yeah, now it's a much playable experience. 120 milliseconds is kind of terrible. It's like we are probably hitting the VRAM limit right here. Because even without any frame gen, it was hitting that VRAM limit. So with 6x frame gen, it's not smooth enough. You can see the dips in the frame time graph right there. And with the 16 GB 5060 Ti, it wasn't this bad at all. It was pretty smooth because we had a lot of VRAM to breathe. And the latency was also pretty low. It's actually better than native without frame gen on 6x. So I think on 4K, man, this is a terrible idea. And again, it's DLSS performance, you know, but it is doing what it's supposed to do, which is keeping the FPS to 120. It is going above that, but it is trying to do that with 6x dynamic frame gen, but it looks pretty terrible and it feels terrible. So yeah, on these settings, it's not it on 4K. No. And now on 1440p, I'm gonna start it off without frame gen. keep it off. I'm gonna do quality mode. Okay, and again say medium settings, and let's see. So without frame gen on medium settings, this is quality 1440p. You can barely get to 60 FPS with 65 milliseconds latency. This is now playable. 65 milliseconds in a single player game is pretty playable. And 53 FPS, which is, I was expecting at least 60 FPS, but I don't think it's going to be possible like that. And look at the GPU memory usage, so it's 7.2 gigabytes. Again, really intensive without frame gen. So what if I do 6x frame gen? Let's see. And on 1440p, it's actually not that bad. When it comes to the latency, you can see it's 64, 65, around that range. And now we can get, okay, now it's actually playable, guys. Now it doesn't look that terrible. It looks pretty normal. And doing a really good job. Getting 137 FPS right here. 35, and again, this is one of the most intensive areas in the game, I believe. It's a really vegetated area, a lot of trees and stuff. Again, this is medium settings, but for a 5060, getting 120 FPS, it's going above that. It's not going to limit it on 120 for some reason. It was the same thing on the 5060 Ti and also the 5080, so I don't know what's going on with that, but these settings, it's actually playable. 150 FPS. So it's going way above the limit. What if I go to high settings then? It might be playable. Yeah, it is actually playable now. 86 milliseconds. Oh no, it is stuttering. Kind of bad. You can see that. So I don't think it is as good. I don't have time for that. Okay, 120 FPS. So on high settings is possible on DLSS quality and 1440p. But look at the latency, man. It's not stable because it is struggling to go back and forth and find a stable ground to keep it at that 120, I believe. That's what it's trying to do now. And I think when you're trying to do that, the GPU memory is also going to go up. Now it's 7.3 gigabytes. Before this, it was 7.2. So that also keeps fluctuating, trying to find a stable FPS. I think that's how it's going to be in most games with its 8 GB VRAM, So I don't know. This is high settings, and I'm kind of scared if I just enable path tracing. Might be a little too much, but let's see. Oh my goodness, look at that. Yeah. I think it's upscaled from maybe 5 FPS or something like that, because that's what I feel like. With 300 milliseconds, it's absolutely terrible. But it is trying to get to that 100 mark at least. 88, so it's definitely like somewhere from 5 to 10 FPS. Trying to upscale it to 89, 90. This is kind of crazy, but yeah, you need at least 12 GB of VRAM to actually breathe and let the frame gen technology take over or something. This is not good at all. Totally unplayable. Yikes. And now let me just go to 1080p. Let me just keep it on DLSS quality again and 4x frame gen with the path tracing maxed out. If you're on 1080p, actually 720p upscaled, you're still kind of struggling to get it to work properly. 180 milliseconds, really? And it's dipping down below that really badly. Look at the dips. The 0.1% loss 8. But this is better than 1440p. That's obvious. Because right now it's, I think, upscaled from maybe 12 or 15 FPS to 130, maybe close to 20. But you know what? Why am I guessing? While I can just turn it off and see. 25 FPS. 25 FPS is the native without any frame gen you can get. Alan Wake maxed out on 5060. Wow. And this game just kills any GPU you throw at it. Even to this day. This thing came out 3 years ago. 7.2 gigabytes used on 1080p with path tracing. So, you know what? It's just better to just keep it off. Keep that off. Keep it to high. It might be way more playable. Again, 38 FPS. Still, damn, on high settings, it's still really intensive, guys. Oh my goodness. Wow. Still using 7.3 gigabytes of VRAM. And if I turn on frame gen, it will definitely get you to 120. And it is playable, but again, it dips here and there. It is stuttering. Now, you can see why 8 GB is not going to be enough for a 6x frame gen in a game like Alan Wake 3, which came out 3 years ago. So if you are somebody who enjoys playing this type of intensive, realistic looking games, and that's your thing, and 5060 is all you gotta turn down the settings to maybe like medium, and then use dynamic frame gen if you want like 120 FPS to have a stable playthrough, in my opinion. Because right now it's it looks good in some areas, but then it's gonna get bad in some other areas. Because right now, see that? If you're like doing these quick movements with the mouse, it is struggling to keep it up. Look at the frame time graph, it's looking absolutely horrible. Not gonna be a good, smooth experience by any means. So then what's the point of having 6x frames gen if you can't do that? Like, this is upscaled from 720p, like I said. So you can might as well just turn it off and put it to medium settings, or maybe 2x frame gen. You don't need any dynamic frame gen. See, even without it, you can get 67 FPS with way better stable performance. So my first impression with the 5060 and dynamic frame gen is kind of terrible, because 8 GB might not be enough. You need at least 12 GB. So 5070 might be the sweetest spot to have this thing turned on. But let's see. This is just Alan Wake. It's a really demanding game. See how it's going to be on Cyberpunk now. All right, now let's go to Cyberpunk. You can see I've already set it to custom up to 6x on dynamic frame gen. Let's see, man. You can see it's 4K. Now we have the Steam overlay, so you guys can see the fake frames generated on top of the base frames. You can see they are on performance mode again. It's actually ultra settings without ray tracing turned on. Advanced frame gen, which is 6x, and you can see ray tracing and path tracing is off. So, but everything else is maxed out. So Psycho, ultra settings. Let's see. There's no way we are actually upscaling from 8 FPS. Okay, now it's picked up from 30 FPS to 129 in Dogtown, which is, I'm not gonna lie, it is way better than Alan Wake 2, that's for sure. And it is much more playable. Now I do not see any artifacting on the edges of the screen like we did see on the 5060 Ti, but that was with path tracing. But I can still see the shadows a little bit weird. You can see that. It's not, it's kind of transparent. As you can see, it's really noisy and doing that weird artifacting thingy. But overall, the experience is way better. 75 milliseconds, not as bad. Oh yeah, but now I can see that on the edges of the screen. You go fast enough, it does act weird. So I think it's just a thing in Cyberpunk. I didn't see this in any other game. I think they need to fix it in an official update or something like that. But as of now, man, it has that weird artifacting that going on when it happens. You can see it, right? But yeah, that's kind of terrible. Is it because of motion blur? Might be motion blur. Let me see hard motion blur. They're gonna fix that or not? It doesn't. It's an artifact that happens with 6x frame gen. So if we turn that off, why is it saying it's saving? What is that? I have no idea. If we turn off the frame gen, the native performance is 53 FPS, which is again still pretty playable, and all the artifacting is gone. I don't see anything on the bottom of the screen anymore. And 65 milliseconds, still really playable, but barely getting 45 FPS. So yeah, that is not great. So let me put this back on again. You can see even with that we are like maxing out the GPU pretty much. Ultra settings with the frame gen turned on with dynamic 6x. I want to try how it's going to be on ray tracing overdrive. Alright, so everything is maxed out. Keep it to performance mode again. Otherwise it's going to just explode. Now let's see. It's going to start off really slow because it needs to pick it up. So I got to give it a little bit of time to cook. Sometimes it picks up, sometimes it doesn't. But I think it's kind of picking up. You can see it's 8, 12. Okay, slowly settling it down. 35, there you go. It's upscaling from 2 FPS though. 32, 33. Dynamic frame gen is going to help you get 120 FPS or even 60 FPS because it's absolutely hammering the GPU right now with the VRAM. So VRAM bottleneck is definitely a thing with 8 GB cards if you're enabling 6x frame gen. You can see right here. So definitely not worth it. So that kind of solves my doubt. 8 GB VRAM is not enough, man. I mean, yeah, we are maxing out the game on path tracing, but we turn it off. Like right now, we are like VRAM buffer overloaded, so we gotta restart it to actually get the actual performance. So I'm gonna quit and come back. Right, I just restarted the game. You can see we are back here. Performance mode, ray tracing overdrive, and everything maxed out, no frame yet. Okay. So performance mode, we are barely getting 3 FPS. So it was pretty accurate. Never mind. So yeah, see, you can see now, after giving it a little bit of time, it actually picked it up. You can see 16 FPS here. I mean, it's better than what we saw with the 6x frames, and it's not playable whatsoever. But you can get more than 10 FPS with 375, almost 400 milliseconds latency, which is horrible. But that's the native performance. It's better playing like this than having that turned on and having absolutely cooking your VRAM. Even this, it's like 8 GB maxed out. It's definitely sharing some system memory. You can see the RAM is 33 gigabytes used. Should not be the case. So on 4K, just forget it. It's not going to work. Let me go to 1440p now. 1440p. I'm going to put it to quality mode. 1440p performance mode is way too low. Again, the same thing. It's going to be the same thing because it's quality mode, so which is upscaled from 1080p kind of. But we are now getting 23 FPS because we have a little bit more VRAM to breathe. You can see we are using almost close to 8 GB but not crossing the limit. 23 FPS. So this is now way more playable, from 400 milliseconds to down to 150. Again, terrible, but better than 4K. So now we enable the frame gen. Could be able to get it to 120, maybe not. 61. It's trying, but the problem is we are hitting the VRAM limit. So, oh my goodness, now we are super slow-mo with 400 milliseconds. Jesus Christ, it's upscaled from 8 FPS. It is trying to get to even 60. The problem is we don't have breathing room with enough VRAM to actually be able to get to that. It would have been able to get to at least 80 FPS. We had 12 GB VRAM, but without that, man, it is struggling really bad. You can see if we just let it breathe, just let it be there, you can see it's getting up to 84. So if you had 12 GB VRAM, it's going to be a consistent 80 FPS at least. But as soon as we start moving, it's going to put more pressure on the GPU. So computing for the frame gen is going to be even harder. And that's why it's struggling right here with 500 milliseconds. This is, yeah, let's forget it. I have to keep it to ultra setting without any path tracing. Keep it to quality mode, apply that. Now this should be way more playable. And yeah, it does take us all the way to 130 FPS, which is what we should be getting. Now we can see it's 62 milliseconds and still using almost 7.5 gigabytes of VRAM. So now we have enough VRAM for the 6X frame gen to actually work without any stuttering or anything, without all the insane artifacting and all that. Subscale from 45 FPS. So as long as you have at least 30 FPS base, 6X dynamic frame gen should work. But yeah, so just make sure you have at least that and then enable this thing, because otherwise it's gonna be a shit show like we just saw. If you're like trying to get 120 FPS from 15 base, then you can, yeah, you're gonna have a really wonderful time like I just had. So if you're okay with that, then by all means go ahead and do it, but you get the point. So this is playable without having path tracing turned on. Now let's go to 1080p. I'm gonna put a DLAA. I'm gonna turn it off for now. So this is the native ultra settings performance on the 5060. So it is 66 FPS, so it is totally playable in 1080p. With 50 milliseconds, this is absolutely playable, So I wouldn't even want to turn on frame gen at this point, but 60 FPS is a really solid base to start generating frames. And we still have about a GB left in the tank. So enabling this won't be a problem at all. And again, yeah, this is a 1080p focused card, so this should be not a problem at all. But the experiment was successful, because if you're above that VRAM limit, then 6X frame gen is going to be terrible. Right now, this is pretty good. On DLA 1080p, from 51 to 120 FPS is absolutely doable. I don't feel any lag at all. I don't see any artifacting like that we used to see. The higher resolutions, 54 milliseconds. So this is actually playable on 1080p. But for people who wants to get a path tracing performance, let me just try quality mode. So I don't think native DLA is going to be playable at all. So I'm going to path trace, turn on everything. Psycho, because why not? It's going to be a little too much, but it should be able to do it. So yes, it is floaty, like really floaty. I can feel that. Like the jump from native or from the previous settings to this is insanely noticeable, and now I can see all the artifacting on the bottom of the screen like we just saw before. So with path tracing enabled, this is kind of terrible, man. I was thinking that we could like finally play it without having to lock it to a certain FPS with 4x frames or anything, but now you can see we are crossing the 8 GB mark on the GPU. So it's definitely VRAM bottlenecked right here, and now it looks terrible as well. So yeah, it's worth it. Not when you have path tracing turned on, but then if you turn off path tracing, I don't see any point in having frame gen turned on either. You can just keep it to 2x to the max on DLA settings and still have a really good experience. So I don't think it's like so far. Dynamic frame gen 6x is kind of a letdown on the 5060. It's 8 GB card, man. GB cards are not going to be enough for high fidelity gaming. So let's see how it's going to be on Borderlands 4 next. And finally, Borderlands 4, you can see right here. When I go to the DLSS override settings, dynamic 6x, custom set to 120, and this is a terribly optimized game from last year. One of the worst ones, to be honest. So let's see. Okay, now we can see we are actually on 4K on badass settings, just kind of insane for 5060, even though it's performance mode, and frame gen enabled. Like back when the game released, this was a nightmare. Even with medium settings, this was a nightmare. But let's see, with all the improvements that they made, it should work better than it was before. But let's see, man. Texture pool medium. What if I just max it out? That's a bad idea again. So it's an 8 GB card. If you have it on the lowest, it's going to be the best way, but very high. Use more than 8 GB of VRAM for sure. And wait, it is actually better than I expected. 180 milliseconds with badass settings. But yeah, now it is struggling really bad, guys. The 5060 was kind of able to play it on these settings because we had more VRAM. But with 8 GB VRAM, this is absolutely terrible. And you can see all the artifacting when he's moving around like that. It's absolutely horrible, guys. So I do not. Yeah, this is terrible. Look at that. Upscale from 11 FPS. So yeah, I don't wish to play like this at all. Performance mode. And just for the sake of it, this is how it's going to be without frame gen. Without frame gen, you can barely get 13 FPS with 260 milliseconds. Again, absolutely horrible. So on badass settings on the 5060 on 4K, it is a terrible idea by all means. Alright, guys. And now let's move to. Actually, let's put it on high settings. Let me see how that's going to be. Might be way better than badass, that's for sure. Can have our high settings. Without frame gen, we can get almost 30 FPS. It's not that great with 130 milliseconds. It's way better than what it used to be. And badass. Now I can at least aim the stuff and get kills. And if you enable frame gen, should be getting us close to 120 or 101, but yeah, it actually feels terrible though. Yeah, it doesn't feel good at all, guys. So I'm not able to aim as good as I could, and 157 milliseconds, this is actually kind of bad. So we actually might have to go to medium settings, I'm not going to do right here, and not playable because we are VRAM bottlenecked again. There's one more, okay. Yeah, it doesn't feel good on 4K at all. So I was hoping we could play the game on high settings that we could not before. Thought this settings, but even with it, now it's kind of even worse. So you definitely need more than 8 GB of VRAM to actually play this properly on a moderate to medium to high settings, if that's what you were trying to do with this settings. But yeah, it's kind of disappointing, but I was expecting something similar. I'm gonna go to 1440p now. Again, I know this is 4K, but I had my expectations a little bit too high. It's my fault. So let's see the same things on 1440p. Might be a little better. And yes, now we can get 120 easily on 1440p. Upscale from 30 FPS. So like I said, if you get at least 30 FPS base, then you will have a really great time. Otherwise, it's going to be terrible. So my recommendation is going to be just go into whatever game you want and then try playing the game without any frame gen first, and then see if you can get at least 35 FPS or 30 FPS base, even with some upscaling, and then come back and enable the 6x multi-frame gen dynamic or whatever you want. That is the best way to do it. Who the hell is this guy? Oh shit. But yeah, this is actually playable now. You know, 81 milliseconds, not terrible. Way better. I might die. I'm almost dead. So I want to see if it's going to be possible to play it with... Oh yeah, this is upscale from performance mode. Come on. I want to see how it's going to be on quality mode. How it's going to be terrible, I guess. Well, it's not as bad as I thought, because we're still getting kind of a similar experience, but now it's a little laggy though. Now it's way more floatier. I don't see anything artifacting or anything going on with the crosshair stuff, so it's okay. If you're playing on a controller, it's going to be okay, but keyboard and mouse on these settings is a little off. Man, I thought it was going to be on quality mode, but it was not. So I'm a little disappointed on that part. But yeah, this is kind of playable, but not on keyboard and mouse. Keyboard and mouse is kind of floaty. How did he flew so far away with these two shots? Yeah, I don't feel that good now with quality mode. So you might have to go down to medium settings again for this. So if I just keep it to medium settings on the texture pool, might be able to play it. Not really, it's pretty much the same. It's still kind of floaty, just like it was with very high texture pool. So I don't know, man. Not amazing. But it is slightly better. I can't say it's like exactly the same, but it is slightly better. Okay. Should I go to badass settings though? I don't think it's going to be playable, but let's just try. Keeping the texture pool to medium. 85 FPS. It's trying to do something, but oh my god. That was miserable right there. Jesus. Yeah, this is horrendous. You can see all kinds of artifacting. Look at that. Ooh. Look at the grass. It is trying to upscale from 12. Oh, I'm somehow able to still hit the shots. But everything is moving in slow motion. Look at this. You. Yeah. Nope. Just forget badass settings, man. With these things enabled, not gonna be able to do this. So one last thing, I'm gonna go to 1080p. Keeping it on badass with DLSS quality mode. Let's see. Upscale from 720p. Even it's playable on 1080p. Even on 1080p, badass settings is not possible, guys. You're getting 120 milliseconds, which is terrible. And it is floaty. And you can see all the artifacting. If you just look down here, you're looking absolutely terrible. So there you go, man. This is not what I was expecting, man. This is terrible. There's nothing else to say. It's pretty terrible on an 8 GB card with 6x frame gen. These things jump out of nowhere. Not enjoyable whatsoever. I'm trying to fight the game more than the enemies right now. So disappointing performance. What if I turn off frame gen? Now it's 25 FPS, which is again terrible. Again, this is upscaling from 720p. Oh my gosh. Who's shooting me from behind? This guy. Wow, he actually killed me. There you go, second chance. No ammo, wow. So, 26 FPS we are getting here. It's still way better than dynamic FT performance that we got on 6X. So terrible, guys. If a native performance is better than enabling the settings, then what is the point of it? So even then, even now, we are maxing out the GPU, the 8 GB. And one of the worst optimized games ever. I go to high settings. It's gonna be the last settings I'm gonna test for this video. So high settings, you can get to 60 FPS, which is pretty good. 53 milliseconds on 1080p. This is playable, you know. But again, now you're like pretty much CPU bound as well. You can see, you know, I'm almost using 40% of the CPU. 9800X 3D. So that's also another thing. But now if I enable frame gen, okay, now it's actually playable, guys. But now we are upscaled from what, 53 FPS all the way to this. So there is that. So oh my god, my aim is so trash. 50 milliseconds is actually playable, so you gotta go all the way to high settings. Then only this will work as intended. Oh yeah, if you were like waiting to play this game on like badass settings and expecting dynamic FT to make it smoother, not gonna work. Unfortunately, oh my god, I'm surrounded by enemies right here. Yeah, this is playable with 48 milliseconds. This is totally playable. Oh my goodness, I'm getting destroyed. I didn't do anything to him. Alright, but you guys get the idea. It is able to do what it's supposed to do, as long as you're getting, like I said, 30 FPS or something minimum. Otherwise, it's gonna be a terrible experience. For that, you need more than 8 GB of VRAM. Like for this kind of experience, you can just keep it to 4x frame gen. I'm pretty sure you're gonna get the same experience. You won't need the dynamic FT or anything. So I don't know, man. I'm kind of feeling like disappointed with this on the 5060. But that's just these three games are like really intensive games. Might be different on different games, but I don't know. But that's gonna be it for this video. I think it's, like I said, I went on for way too long. It's gonna be a longer video than the previous one, I believe. But again, I tested out 3 different resolutions on all 3 of these games. So let me know what you guys think about it, man. Like 8 GB card, if you are owning a 5060, did you try it out yet? If you did, how was your experience on the same games or maybe different games? Let me know in the comments and all that good stuff. So that'll be it. My overall thoughts on the 6X dynamic frame gen on 5060 is kind of disappointing. There you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more benchmarks. I hope you guys are having a great time wherever you are. Catch you guys in the next one. So take it easy and peace out.